Yeah, today I want to try something a little bit more daring. I call it theoretical wealth generation, leaning on the concept of theoretical computer science or theoretical physics. So there is the field, there's the actual doing, and then there's the theory about, okay, how are we actually doing these things? And today's episode is along those lines. And it might sound a little bit abstract for people, but it's actually not. Everything I'm doing here is really towards the practical implementation of running a hedge fund, because this is what we do. This is what we are actually doing right now. And I'm sharing my thoughts. So even though sometimes it might sound a little abstract, it is not, because it is very important for wealth generation in the long term. This is a Not Even Wrong podcast. It's February 7th, 2021. This is Krim Delco. Today is a Sunday. There's no update. I want to talk about leaderless consensus. This is a concept in computer science. The idea is that you have a large network and you don't have the time and the budget and the power budget and all that to constantly make sure that all decisions are made within a certain value network. So you have to find ways to have the network make decisions much faster and without going back to the leader. Now, this concept reminds me of, let's say, something that Netflix is trying to do. And Reed Hastings, in his book No Rules Rules, which is a book that I'm currently reading, and I'm occasionally referring to the book. I will do a proper analysis after I read the book, like I always do, but I just want to put this book into the limelight here, because Reed Hastings' book is really about leaderless consensus in a company. And this leads us now to the big news of last week, which is Elon Musk wants to write a book about SpaceX and Tesla, tell the story of SpaceX and Tesla. And what he said on Clubhouse is he wants other people to learn. He wants people to learn from how they did it. So I believe, I hope, the idea of writing a book, and I'm sure he's not going to write it, it's probably going to be written by somebody else, but somebody is going to have access to the inner workings of these companies and the inner workings of the Elon Musk management style. And I think this is in line with what Reed Hastings did with his book, and it's in line with this concept, leaderless consensus. What's the problem here? The problem is you're building a large organization, and you have to find a way to generate consensus while at the same time harnessing democracy, harnessing things like crowdsourced wisdom within a company, of course, but maybe even outside of a company. The point is, like, of course, if you have a leader like the army and everything is hierarchical, then you have processes in place and execution will be done according to the values of the system. But what you want, and this is Reed Hastings' book is very instrumental here, you want to surface ideas and intellectual explanatory knowledge, to use David Deutsch's terminology. You want to surface explanatory knowledge at every level, at the right level of the organization. This is the key. So, for example, if if we're talking about, let's say, a capital raise of the company, this is obviously something that the CEO and the CFO should be talking about. This is not something the head of marketing should be thinking about. If we're talking about how to market narcos in Mexico, how should this be done? This should be surfacing at the level of the head of marketing in Mexico, and not at the senior vice president of Latin America who sits in Dallas or something like that. So the key in Reed Hastings' book, and I think the way he has organized Netflix, is how do I surface the best explanatory knowledge of how to solve problems at the best level? And he calls it No Rules Rules, and the book really talks about a certain base that needs to be built. So you have to have candor, transparency, openness, fairness, things like that. So he's kind of building a cultural base of making sure that people follow a certain way of behavior. And then once that's implemented, he's also talking about talent density, of course. So he's saying, look, first and foremost, you need to have capable people. Then you need to have certain behaviors like candor and things like that, because you can have capable people who are unfair, who lie, things like that. So you don't want that. You want to make sure that the cultural fit is such that then you can open up the gates and say, okay, now that I have all these things in place, so when the hiring happens, we're already making the long-term decision that we're going to let this person make very important decisions at his level. For example, there is a scene in the book where he talks about a person that was hired from, I don't know, HBO or some company like that. they go to, I think, Brazil, and they have certain problems to solve, and then they get an email from the legal department at the headquarters in California saying, from now on, you're making decisions as far as your field is concerned. You're going to make those decisions. And the person answers back saying, well, at how far up can I go in terms of, let's say, how many millions until I need to have a signature from somebody in the C-suite? The answer is nobody. It's your decision. Hastings goes further and then explains there are certain metrics that need to be put in place. And one thing that really stuck in my mind is the following. Let's say you're a boss and you have somebody like that. Let's say you're the senior vice president of marketing in Latin America, and now somebody in Mexico makes a decision to spend $20 million on a marketing campaign for narcos. And the point is this: what if you don't agree? What if you think, well, this might not work? So the way Hastings says it, first and foremost, you're going to want to hear what are the specific, what's the process that made you think this is a good idea. So you want to double check the process. You're not going to make the decision. You're going to say, it's your decision. I just want to hear, how did you get there? And very importantly, if you as a let's say senior vice president, if you think that this is a bad idea, before you start killing the idea, think about it. Did I hire this person because they're really the best at what they do? Do they fit into my culture? Like, do that cross check. And if the answers are yes here, then don't intervene. And if the answers are no, then you really need to let that person go. That is the actual process here. And I think this is very powerful. And we're talking about a certain protocol is being implemented to solve problems. And this is exactly what the no leader consensus protocols in computer science are trying to solve. So here is sort of the bridge between a corporation, a wealth generation organization, and computer science. We have a certain decentralized bunch of nodes, and they make decisions. And the goal in, let's say, in the computer science context is, for example, to make fast decisions so the network can deliver packets very fast on the internet. And of course, the goal within a company is to follow the mission, generate wealth, or whatever the mission is. In the case of Tesla, for example, the mission would be to accelerate the ascent of sustainable energy. So the thing here now, I want to sort of bridge the gap now between computer science and wealth generation. We have a bunch of nodes. In the wealth generation context, it's people, and they have to be organized in a way so they can make fast decisions. And the goal is, this is an optimization problem in a sense that we have, on the one hand, a lot of people with a lot of ideas. On the other hand, we need to make sure that the values are aligned. So this is the key problem. And now let's think about, let's go back to computer science. There are protocols, mathematical models that show you that if you have a lot of conflicts in a situation, so for example, if a network has a lot of conflicts, then you want to have more of a decentralized approach. And if there is very few conflicts, you can have a centralized approach. So this is kind of the the bottom line. And now let's think about a company. So a conflict would be a problem. So problem solving. And also you can weight those problems by how critical is the problem for the survival of the company or the success. So if you have a lot of decisions on a lot of different levels that are critical for the company, so if you have a lot of conflicts, then you want to have a situation where you have decentralized approach. If you have very few, let's say, for example, a good example is the army. There aren't a lot of conflicts in the army. The army is basically, we have to go win a war. There are a few decisions to be made on lower levels. Should we go left or right? Should we attack with artillery first or with air force and things like that? Fine. They will not be made by the central command. But overall, there aren't that many conflicts. Sometimes also it is this is also a trade-off between, well, conflicts and values, and conflicts and execution. And you don't want to have too much decentralized decision making in live or die situations. So, for example, I don't want to have the pilot that's flying my plane and the people in the cockpit. I don't want them to negotiate every time they make a decision. I think I want to have a pretty clear process in place here, so there's no questions about me surviving the flight. So this is kind of where we are now, right now. And here is now the question for Tesla in particular. Okay, how is Tesla organized? How is Tesla solving the problem? Is Tesla a leaderless consensus problem solving a mechanism, a little bit like, let's say, Netflix is? Or is Tesla more like a top down? And I think my guess with Tesla is the following. I think that Tesla is an iterative company. This is the key. Tesla is an iterative company. So there isn't a lot of decision making anyway. It is just let's go try and see what happens. Now, I don't want to diminish the importance of explanatory knowledge, of intellectual power, of sheer vision, creativity. All these things matter at Tesla as at any other innovative company. Elon Musk has said our competitive advantage is the rapid innovation. The speed of innovation is really what differentiates us from competition. So I want to dissect that a little bit. If I look at it from the concept of decision making and leadership and centralization, or leaderless consensus in computer science versus the Reed Hastings types no rules organization within a creative company. How is Tesla organized? And I want to caveat this. I don't know how it's organized, but we have certain conjectures, and we believe that first and foremost there is the vision, and we've said that many times before. The vision is the North Star that keeps everybody aligned. And then we have, I think, Tesla is a high conflict company. There is always very important problems to be solved that actually are very critical for the company. So this is the key. And Musk has said that also in various occasions, that every meeting he has, almost every meeting is almost a live or die, because it is important. Which architecture are we choosing for our battery technology? How are we doing AI? What is the next design going to be? Which products are we launching? What's the pricing of the FSD? This is a fast growing company where the faster they grow and the more compound the knowledge and the successes, the more it compounds, the more important every decision is. If you have a compound growth company, then a decision today can have massive influence in a couple of years, because everything is compounding. And if you make a mistake today, that can have massive influence in the future. If your cost structure is not the right today, or if you don't make a decision today about the cost structure, then 3 years down the road you could not be competitive, even though maybe today the cost structure doesn't seem such a big of a problem. So what I'm trying to say here is that Tesla is a very complex, very high conflict company. And I think the way it's organized, the way the company is organized, it is that the creativity is surfacing at every stage in the company all the time, and then continuously through iterative processing being tested. This is the key. Testing and iteration. I think the difference between Netflix and Tesla is that it's a similar company in the sense that both Reed Hastings talks about the importance of having ideas and then also testing them. And Tesla has taken this to the next level. The iteration is the key, and we've said that on this podcast also before. I think it's important that the definition of disruption, or fundamentally new concepts with new engineering practices and large impact, can only happen if the cost of iteration is low. So what Elon Musk has done, first and foremost, he has organized the company and around low cost of iterations. Low cost of iteration, if you look at this from a computer science perspective and the problem solving in large networks, what Musk has done is he has created an algorithm where you can make a lot of decision at various levels of the company without too much central power, and then have a system which tests them continuously. So the testing is the key. So if I take, for example, the LFP battery, the lithium iron phosphate battery, this is probably a decision which was made at the level of the battery group. Maybe Musk approved it, maybe not, it doesn't matter. But what's important now is the decision has been made, it has been implemented, and they're fixing problems. They're using software to fix hardware problems. They're using hardware to fix software problems. So the fast iteration is really what sets Tesla apart. There is risk with that, but fundamentally, this is the key. So we have a company that is organized very much like Netflix in a sense that the decision-making power is delegated to the point of excellence. So where the actual knowledge is the most relevant and also most acute and most available. And then we have this iteration. I think iteration is the key for Tesla, and I think that this is the if Tesla is a network of nodes, nodes being people with high conflict, then the solution to a fast evolution of the network and the network moving towards the mission, which is to succeed in the mission that Tesla has, which is to decarbonize energy, then the path to there is to have explanatory knowledge developed through creative processes at every node where it's the most relevant, and then iterative processes continuously sort of creating a marketplace of processes and iteration and creative knowledge that surfaces the better ideas and reduces the not so good ideas. So in that sense, it's also a very Popperian approach. This is what we believe it is. We are hoping that through the book that is going to be written, I guess, very soon, where Musk is going to talk about SpaceX and Tesla, this will be revealed more. This is our conjecture. We believe this is the way Tesla is operating, and we believe that this is also a lesson that we want to take on to our other investments. So it is decision making at the most relevant level of the organization. So a la Netflix with large iteration. This is the key to wealth generation. Thank you.